Hi, I'm Jonathan Wong, UKIP member, and we've got Callum Darragh, Young Independents. Today we're speaking with Gerard Batten, our former leader and our leadership candidate.
So
Hello,
Gerard,
Johnny. Hello, Callum.
You've been leader for 15 months now. What's decided to make you come back and run again?
Well, I'll be perfectly frank, I had no intention of running again. I always said that I wanted to retire at 65. I had hoped to retire on a high note, which was we left the European Union. And failing that UKIP had a big success in the European elections, and we didn't. And I thought, right, that's my lot. I've done it, I'll retire. And in fact, I expected the party membership to be very unhappy with what happened in the European elections. And I was amazed. Instead of that, they were disappointed, but they didn't blame me for the result. And I've been inundated with messages asking me to run again. Up until last week, I really wasn't going to do it. But I've come to the conclusion that I have to do it for the same reason I did it last time in February 2018. Because I feel if I don't, the party will collapse. No disrespect to the other candidates in this election. I wish them well. But I do feel that unless we continue on a particular path, then we are not going to get anywhere. If we try to be like all the other parties, well, it's a crowded market already, and I don't believe in the approach of the other parties anyway, so why would I want to be like them? But sincerely, I think if I don't do it, then the party is going to collapse again, financially and politically. And I'm doing it again through a sense of duty, because I love this party, and I 100% believe in the things that I stand up for, as much as ever. And I really feel, for a period of time anyway, I have to continue in order to get the party back on a sound footing in terms of finance, in terms of membership numbers, and in terms of political messages.
So under your leadership, the percentage of vote of the party has gone down to 4%. How do you answer your critics?
Well, that was in the European elections, of course. It was a grave disappointment, to put it mildly, Johnny. Let me put it that way. It was a real kick in the stomach to get that after all the years that we've put in campaigning for Brexit. Put it in perspective, when I took over, we were on 1 or 2% in the polls. We were about to disappear completely. We gradually built that up over that 15 months of leadership. We got 8%, for example, in the Newport by-election in Wales, which is not an easy place for UKIP to campaign. It's a staunch Labour seat. We actually won seats in the recent council elections. We got some fantastic results in places like Sunderland, where we got about 11 second places, and we won several seats, 40-odd% of the vote in one place. So it was variable. And then just before the European elections, we were on about 18% of the vote in opinion polls. And then the Brexit Party appeared. And that is what took away our vote. As you probably noticed, I'm sure you did, the Brexit Party was relentlessly promoted by the mainstream media, while UKIP was relentlessly attacked. And this is what caused our vote to collapse, I think, to the 4%. And when on the election night, I thought, that's it. It's a disaster. People won't want me anymore. I had no ambitions to go on anyway. And I thought they'd all round on me and blame me. And as I said earlier, in an answer to your question, I was amazed that the membership didn't. They didn't blame me for it. Many of them, without any prompting to me, shared my analysis of what happened in terms of the Brexit Party being an engineered product designed to put UKIP out of the field by the mainstream media, and they didn't hold it against me at all. So that's been part. If the membership had blamed me for that and said it was your fault, you got it all wrong, I wouldn't even dream about coming back. But they haven't said that. The vast majority who've contacted me in my office haven't said that. Have said quite the opposite. And as I said to you in the previous answer, it's a sense of duty now on my part that says I've got to try and keep UKIP in the game for the next year or two, and we'll see how things progress.
And what would you answer to the accusation that the direction that you take the parties is taking the party into disrepute?
Well, to me, you see, this isn't a game about what do I think will get votes, and I've got to say this or that or the other thing. To me, it's about what you believe and you believe to be true. And I only ever say anything because I believe it to be true. And that's what I did. I recant and withdraw nothing that I said or did during my term as leadership, or indeed in my entire political career. And I still think I'm right. And I still think that a vast majority of people in UKIP, the members, still think that I was right in the things that I said and did. And I actually think there's still a tremendous swell of opinion out there amongst the general population who also share those views. But in the European elections, where I would have liked to have seen us got a massive share of the vote, they took the view that they wanted to vote for the Brexit Party, and that's what they did. So nothing's going to change. I'm not going to say anything different or do anything different. Certainly in retrospect, you can also say, I might have said this better, or I might have done something differently. But everybody says that about their lives in retrospect. But I think in general, I said the right things and did the right things, and I ain't going to change.
All right, so if Brexit is a central issue to the party, how do we stand out from the Brexit Party?
Well, Brexit leaving the European Union was central to our party. It always was. It always will be. You know what I've said on this. I don't believe that we're going to leave. I believe that it will be fudged. Either we won't leave at all, or we'll leave with a deal that's so bad we might as well have not bothered anyway. In terms of the Brexit Party, it's not a real party. It doesn't have members. It only has subscribers, i.e. mugs who are supposed to send money in. They can't vote for the leader of the party. They don't have any power within the party. And it isn't a real political party, and it isn't meant to be a real political party. And of course, it is, as I said, when it emerged, when did it emerge? No more than about 3 months ago. It's Tory light. They are all Tories who couldn't bear to vote for the Tory party or be in the Tory party. One good thing about it, although it was pretty unpleasant while it was happening, when I had MEPs deserting to the Brexit Party and leaving UKIP. While it was pretty unpleasant during this process of when I had our MEPs deserting and going to the Brexit Party and people, it actually served a purpose because we got rid of a lot of old Tories. The problem with UKIP for a long time was that it was turned into a refugee camp for disaffected Tories. I can remember when Margot Parker, who was one of our MEPs, told me she went to a fundraising dinner, which I wasn't invited to, funnily enough, when the then chairman of the party told her that our job was to change the Tory party. And I said to her, well, it's a good job he didn't say that to me, because I would have told him exactly what he could do with his idea of changing the Tory party. This is the problem. UKIP was dominated for years by basically Tories who weren't getting anywhere in the Tory party. So while losing people in that run-up to the European election was very unpleasant for me to deal with, they've actually done us a bit of a favour. People have purged themselves that I wasn't in a position to purge. We actually put in a lot more members. You know, we went up from about 17,000 to a high spot of nearly 30,000. And they are people who've joined UKIP because they believe in UKIP and they believe in the things that I was saying, not because they were a bunch of Tories who were disaffected with the Tory party. That's what the Brexit Party is. It's a bunch of disaffected Tories. They have managed to get votes across the board, absolutely, I'm sure, up and down the country. But I don't believe that will hold together over time. And what I want UKIP to do is to offer a programme to ordinary people and small business holders up and down the country, whether they formally voted Tory or formally voted Labour, or whether they allowed themselves to vote Brexit Party in the European elections. They're the people I want to appeal to.
And I believe that's your 2018 manifesto.
Well, actually, yeah, I was very pleased with this. This was our manifesto in 2018. This went down very well indeed with the party membership. This was unveiled at the party conference in Birmingham in September 2018. I won't be changing anything in that. Well, we'll adapt it, we'll improve it, we'll amend it slightly and put some more things in it, I'm sure. But I was very pleased with that. It's just about the right size. You don't want to go with too much. And thinking about it since, I produced some other little leaflets. And I thought, how do you get down your political philosophy? Because people don't vote on the detail of policy. Most people are not going to read a manifesto. They want to know what your philosophy is, really, which is why I came up with this little leaflet, because thinking it out, what can I say about our philosophy as a party? It's about patriotism, which is loving your country, actually defending your country, and the people who live in that country, the citizens of that country. And it's also based on some values. which, how do I distill these? And I've called them national democracy, political democracy, and economic democracy. What do we mean by that? National democracy. You can't be a democracy if your country is run from somewhere else. Over we are, from Brussels. We're not a free country anymore. Political democracy. We have got probably the most unfair voting system anywhere. The first past the post system, which has stopped there would have been UKIP MPs years and years ago if we'd have had a proportional representation system. So we want to see a system brought in where people actually get what they vote for in the proportions that they vote. So that's political democracy. Economic democracy. Well, what does that mean?
You don't mean socialism, do you, surely?
What I mean is that you run your economy for the benefit of the people who live in your country. Now, I have these arguments with people in UKIP who talk about the free market. And I say, yeah, that's a nice idea, a purist idea. You want to have a free market with China. It's got 1.3 billion people. They'll work for peanuts, and they've got slave labour if they need it. They lock up dissidents and they make them work for nothing, work them to death. So how do you compete with a country like that? If you decide that you're being unfairly disadvantaged, then you have to do something about it. You can't say, oh, in pursuit of an economic ideal, we're going to allow our own people to sleep rough on the streets because they can't afford a job. Or if they've got a job, they still haven't got enough money for somewhere to live. Walk up and down here in Ilford and see all the people sleeping on the rough. Go any part of the country now and you've got people sleeping rough anywhere. How are you running your economy for the benefit of your own people if you've got people, more and more numbers of people that can't actually afford somewhere to live? And indeed, I saw a figure somewhere that I think it was something like 40% of rough sleepers in London have actually got a job of some kind. So they're earning some money.
But the
they
housing's
haven't
just so
actually
expensive.
got anywhere to live because it's too expensive. So economic democracy, the first thing you would do to restore that would be to stop mass uncontrolled immigration, because these people haven't got a job because some other people are coming in completely undercutting their wages. So they can't afford the living wage because businesses can employ someone for peanuts. So it's not I'm not a kind of a political ideologue. So when I talk about economic democracy, I mean the economy of a country should be run for the benefit of the people who live there. Which I think is what the Chinese do in China.
Would you call it national capitalism?
Yeah. And then the other bit that I added on was liberalism and traditionalism. What do I mean by that? Well, UKIP's always been a liberal party, live and let live. We want freedom of individual rights, people to go about their business, do what they like. We're not against anybody within, doing what they want within the law, and that's the way it should be. But also traditionalism. We should uphold our great traditions in this country. And one of them is you can't be locked up and arbitrarily imprisoned without evidence against you and a conviction. Oh, no, not now, under a European arrest warrant. Anybody can be sitting at home minding their own business. Please turn up, European arrest warrant. You were accused of a crime in a certain European country at a certain time. We're arresting you. I have nothing to do with it. Not our problem, sir. They'll sort that out in Romania or Bulgaria or wherever it is who's issued the arrest warrant. And you can be carted off without any prima facie evidence against you. You can be, it's not called extradition now, it's called a judicial surrender. Because we're all one big country, aren't we? No, we're all one big lovely country now without borders. So you may have gone and had a lovely holiday in Romania, got back, oh, it's a lovely time, knock on the door, oh, you're accused of bank robbery in Romania. I was nowhere near it. Sorry, sir, not our problem. Take you to the magistrate's court. I can prove I wasn't there. I was on a beach 100 miles away. So sorry, we have no ability to consider that evidence. You have to sort that out in Romania or wherever it was, and you'll be carried off. And people don't tell me it doesn't happen because I've sat in the Horseferry Road magistrates' courts and listened to these cases where people are then sent off. Now, to me, I'm a hardliner on law and order. I'd bring back hanging if it was up to me for the likes of the Moors murderers and all these child murderers and whatever. I could quite happily string them up. But the law is there to protect the innocent as much as convict the guilty. That's the way it was constructed gradually by, over centuries in this country. So nobody should be sent off to another country unless there is evidence produced against them which satisfies a court in this country that there is sufficient evidence for them to go to trial, and then they should only be sent if we think that country has a fair judicial system which is going to treat them properly. So that's just one example of the EU's own legal system that they're bringing in. They're police and criminal justice system. So for me, that's traditionalism, looking after the freedoms and the rights of your own people. And I'd do the same thing with the American extradition treaty. I'd scrap that as well. I mean, that's outrageous as well. They can take people from our country, but the court is allowed to know what the evidence is, but they're not allowed to do anything about it. We just send them off. But no American citizen can be sent here unless they're satisfied that there is a proper case to answer.
Completely unequal.
Of course it is. Yeah. And who agreed to that? Jack Straw. All these people have sold this country down the river for years and years. So what I'd say to the people in the UKIP who are thinking of voting for me, if I can give this final message, I don't repent or recant anything. I'm going to talk about getting out of the EU. I'm going to talk about extremist and fundamental Islam, which is the biggest threat to Western civilization that it's faced since the Nazis. And I am going to continue banging on about our traditional freedoms and rights under our own law in our own country. I've got nothing against any other country, any other group of people, but we should have a government that looks after our interests first. And that's what I'm going to be arguing about. I won't be doing it on Sky or Channel 4 because I've no interest in going and talk to them. So anyone that's thinking of voting for me, make sure you understand what you're going to get because that's what I'm going to be doing, more of the same.
How would you go about increasing branch engagement? Because we're kind of lacking some structure at the moment in the party.
Well, what's very important doing this is to make sure that we can raise the membership and raise income, because without income we can't do anything. And I need money to pay salaries, and one of the things I want to do is to have a national organiser so that we've got somebody who is permanently there helping branches to do the three things that are most important. How do they increase their membership? How do they raise funds to help them fight elections locally? And what's their plans for the next election that they have to fight locally, whether that be a council by-election, council election, general election, or whatever. So I want to appoint somebody. We made a move in this direction under my leadership when we had two very good organisers, Peter McIlvenna and Alan Graves. Without them, there wouldn't have been an organisation for that local election or the European election, because they did a great deal of work helping to organise those. So I want to try and make that a permanent fixture. But branches, in UKIP, it's not about what UKIP does for you, it's about what you can do for yourself and UKIP. So branches need to understand why they're there. I've been to so many branch meetings over the year where they talk around, they sit around talking about how bad the EU is. No, talk about how much money have we raised this month? How many new members have we raised this month? What's the next plan for the next election? And then telling the central party what you're doing. One of the things I also want to do is completely reform the structure of the party. I've worked with the NEC. They've been quite positive over my previous period of membership, but I think the time has come for a big change. The party has to be run like a business. We have to have a board of directors who understand their responsibilities as a board of directors and who can competent to do it, and will run the party as a business in terms of bringing in money and new members, so that we are not just solvent, but that we are making money that we can use in the party. The NEC can then deal with the internal administration of the party, and I think I'd really like to change it into something like a National Action Committee, where it's made up of activists, not people who want a seat on the basis of 200 words and a photograph and then turn up once a month on a Sunday afternoon. I want people who are actively involved in the in the actual work of the party, and like I said, raising money, increasing membership. And then finally, in terms of policy has to be the remit of the leader. I'd like the leader to appoint a small policy committee, who then appoint subcommittees on different areas where we can get experts. And there are experts in the party on different subjects. Okay, let's get them to write a policy paper. That gets reviewed by the policy committee, and then the leader decides what the policy is going to be. And one thing I did as leader during the last term of my office, we asked all of the branches to list their top 5 policy areas and send them in to us. And we took that into account when we wrote this document. And I'm very pleased to say that what we got back from the party membership dovetailed with our view of what the priorities were. So when we produced this document for the 2018 conference, there was hardly any dissent. It can't please everybody, of course that's impossible, but this went down very well. And it went down very well because this is broadly what the membership were thinking anyway. So that's how I'd like to reorganise the party.
Gerard Batten, lovely.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, chaps.
Right, so just one.